When we talk about trillionaire minds, we imagine modern entrepreneurs, technology empires, fortunes built on innovation and risk. But few people realize that before all of them, there was a man who created something even rarer, wealth that remains alive even after his death, not only in money, but in dignity, purpose, and unity. That man was Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, the founder of the United Arab Emirates. Zayed was not born surrounded by luxury. He was born in Al Ain, a city in the arid desert where water was scarce, the land seemed infertile, and opportunities were almost non-existent. Even so, from a young age, he saw abundance where others saw emptiness. To him, the desert was a school. He used to say that the desert teaches patience, teaches generosity, and teaches humility. This is the first lesson of a trillionaire mind. Wealth begins when one learns to see value where no one else does. While many complained about scarcity, Zayed observed, he studied how nature adapted to the desert, how the wind shaped the dunes, how life persisted even under the harshest conditions. He believed that true wealth is mental before it is material. And it was with this mindset that he began to build, not oil wells, but wells of wisdom. When oil was finally discovered, Zayed saw what few leaders in the world would have seen. An opportunity, yes, but also a test. He knew that fast money can corrupt slow minds. So, instead of spending on ostentation, he invested in education, healthcare, and housing. He once said, "Wealth is not what we accumulate, but what we use to benefit others." This mindset is the second pillar of a trillionaire mind. Money is just a tool. True wealth is impact. Zayed did not believe in growth without purpose. He built a nation. But first he built a people capable of thinking, serving, and dreaming. He personally visited the most distant villages, sat with shepherds, and listened to their needs. A leader of oil, but with bare feet in the sand. He believed that leadership is serving first, and that no fortune lasts unless it is anchored in compassion and respect. When one looks at the current map of the United Arab Emirates, skyscrapers, technology, security, and prosperity, it is easy to forget that everything began with a thought, that a desert could be transformed into a garden. Sheikh Zayed dreamed of this decades before any foreign investment. He planted trees in arid soil and said, "One day, this land will be green." His advisors laughed. "Nothing grows here." And he replied, "If God made the desert, he also gave us the intelligence to transform it." This is the third principle of trillionaire minds. They do not wait for perfect ground. They cultivate the impossible until it flourishes. But what may have made Zayed a unique leader was his ability to unite extremes. He combined tradition and modernity, spirituality and pragmatism, authority and humility. He deeply respected the Quran, but also believed that true faith is expressed through action, in building schools, hospitals, roads, and giving dignity to people. He saw religion as a moral map, and the mind as the tool to materialize it. For those who seek wealth in today's world, this is one of the greatest lessons. Wealth without values is unstable. Values without action are sterile. Sheikh Zayed built both, balancing faith and vision. Perhaps the deepest secret of Sheikh Zayed's mindset is visionary patience. He never sought immediate results. He knew that what is built quickly is lost quickly. Instead, he thought in generations. He once said, "The true leader plants seeds that he may not see bloom." And that is how trillionaire minds think. They do not measure success in quarters, but in centuries. If we want to think like Zayed, we need to trade haste for purpose. We need to learn to see the world as he did, a place of infinite potential, but one that demands infinite responsibility. Because in the end, a trillionaire mind is not one that accumulates billions in accounts, but one that multiplies lives, ideas, and hopes. Sheikh Zayed proved that it is possible to turn sand into gold, not because he believed in magic, but because he believed in human beings. Sheikh Zayed understood time as few men ever have. To him, time was not something to be spent. It was something to be honored. He saw each dawn as a new chance to serve, to build, to refine what had been started the day before. He used to say that time is the most valuable asset God grants to humankind, and that wasting it is a form of ingratitude. This way of thinking about time shaped everything he did. Every meeting, every decision, every silence. He believed that time, when well used, multiplies into invisible fruits, fruits that do not ripen on the same day, but that, with patience, transform entire generations. The secret lay in understanding that haste impoverishes, while consistency enriches. Zayed never measured success by speed, but by solidity. He preferred a slow but rooted construction to a fast project that would not last. This way of thinking about time is the opposite of modern thinking, which seeks immediacy. Zayed believed that time is a seed, and that every act, no matter how small, must be planted with intention and faith. He wasted neither the time of others nor his own, because he saw in every person a spark of responsibility. When he looked at the desert, he saw not only sand and heat, but the patience of the universe, teaching that everything blooms at the right moment. Work, for Sheikh Zayed, was the bridge between dream and reality. He never separated faith from effort. To him, the most powerful prayer was work done well. There was no difference between the man who planted and the man who governed, as long as both fulfilled their role with honesty and purpose. This was the foundation of his vision of prosperity, to work not to be recognized, but to be useful. He believed that work is the purest form of worship, because through it, human beings participate in creation. At a time when many leaders were content to manage resources, Zayed wanted to create possibilities. He did not leave to chance what he could accomplish with his own hands. It was common to see him walking among construction workers, speaking with engineers, farmers, and teachers, asking what they needed and listening attentively. He did not believe in hierarchies of value between professions, but in a hierarchy of intention. Work that improves the lives of others is always worth more than work that serves only the ego. Zayed had a relationship of deep respect with manual labor. He grew up in a harsh reality, where everything depended on physical effort, resilience, and cooperation. For this reason, he valued sweat as much as wisdom. He said that a country that disrespects the worker digs its own ruin, because the one who sustains the ground is the one who steps on it, not the one who merely observes it. Prosperity for him was born from the sum of small daily acts: planting, teaching, healing, caring, building. Each simple gesture was, in essence, a stone placed in the foundation of the future. The spirituality of Sheikh Zayed was silent and constant. He did not turn it into a spectacle, but into an inner force that guided his decisions. His faith was not limited to prayers. It was present in the way he treated people, how he resolved conflicts, how he looked at nature. He believed that God manifests in balance, and that every human being has the responsibility to preserve this balance in the world. His spirituality was practical, not theoretical. He saw faith as a moral commitment, not as a public appearance. Zayed saw God in actions, not in words, and for this reason, his spirituality blended seamlessly with his leadership. He believed that serving was the highest form of devotion. He often said that when a leader works for the good of the people, he is in prayer even in silence. This way of thinking brought him closer to people, because they felt that his faith did not separate him, it connected him. His spiritual vision did not distance him from the world. It allowed him to see the world more clearly. It is impossible to understand the mind of Sheikh Zayed without understanding how these three forces, time, work, and spirituality, were intertwined within him. Time gave him patience. Work gave him purpose. Spirituality gave him direction. With time, he learned to wait. With work, he learned to build. With faith, he learned to trust. And from this invisible trinity was born a strength that made him unshakable in the face of difficulties. While other leaders allowed themselves to be dominated by anxiety, he seemed guided by a deep calm, not because he was without fear, but because he understood the rhythm of things. He knew that each phase of life has its function, that every obstacle is a lesson, and that every challenge, when faced with dignity, is transformed into wisdom. This serenity allowed him to see far ahead. When many were concerned with today, he was already thinking about tomorrow. When the world saw the desert, he already saw the garden. Sheikh Zayed believed that time belongs to God, but the use of time belongs to humankind. This was his philosophy in everything, and perhaps this is the greatest lesson he left behind: that true power lies not in controlling time, but in cooperating with it. Those who understand the rhythm of time, who work with intention, and who act with faith, create wealth that no crisis can destroy. Zayed proved this. His legacy continues to grow decades after his passing because it was planted in the most fertile soil that exists, the soil of purpose. The trillionaire mind is not born from favorable circumstances, nor does it depend on luck or destiny. It is formed in the way a person interprets life, in the values they choose to uphold, in the small daily decisions that shape character, and in the ability to turn difficulties into direction. Sheikh Zayed did not become a visionary leader because he was born into power, but because he learned to transform every obstacle into a step, every limitation into an opportunity, and every challenge into learning. This is true wealth, not what is accumulated, but what is embodied. Those who observe Zayed's legacy closely realize that he built more than a country. He built a mental model. The secret of his greatness lies in the way he thought. When he saw a problem, he did not ask, "Who made the mistake?" but "How can we fix it?" When someone presented him with a difficulty, his response was not pessimism, but planning. He believed that thought is the most powerful tool of creation, and that all wealth begins as an idea, an invisible seed in the mind of someone who refuses to give up. Zayed saw the human mind as sacred ground. What is planted in it defines the destiny of a nation or a life. For this reason, he nourished his own with good thoughts, good intentions, and good actions. He believed that every person carries within them a desert and a garden, and that the difference between the two lies in what we choose to cultivate. This is one of the simplest and most difficult lessons at the same time. Outer success is merely a reflection of inner order. Today, it is common to seek wealth through haste, learning fast, earning fast, growing fast. Sheikh Zayed followed the opposite path. He trusted in the slowness that matures. He knew that the strongest trees are those that grow slowly, because they create roots before offering shade. This way of thinking is the antidote to modern anxiety. Haste makes a person harvest unripe. Patience makes them harvest eternal. But Zayed did not confuse patience with passivity. He believed in constant action, even if small. He used to say that God helps the man who helps himself. This phrase summarizes his philosophy. Faith is not waiting, it is movement. The trillionaire mind acts every day, not out of desperation, but out of discipline. It works not because it needs to prove something, but because it understands that work is the language through which humanity speaks to destiny. There is a silent power in those who work with purpose. Sheikh Zayed carried this power. He did not need to impose himself, because his example already spoke for him. And this may be the most practical teaching of all. It is not speech that convinces, it is coherence. The world trusts those who live what they say. And that is what made Zayed an eternal figure. His word was an extension of his action. He believed that true leadership does not consist in being followed, but in awakening leadership in others. For this reason, he invested so much in education and dignity. He wanted each citizen to be capable of thinking for themselves, dreaming for themselves, building for themselves. This is the peak of the trillionaire mind, when it becomes fertile enough to generate other fertile minds. Abundance, in Zayed's thinking, is never solitary. Wealth that is not shared is poor, and this is where his vision rises above any border. Sheikh Zayed did not speak only to the Emirates. He spoke to the universal human being. He taught that life is a collective responsibility, that each of us is a guardian of harmony, of the land, of time, and of one another. His message crosses religions and cultures because it rests on human principles: respect, generosity, work, faith, and vision. These are the 5 invisible pillars of all true prosperity. When we look at today's world, with so much haste, noise, and disorder, perhaps the greatest act of wisdom is to stop for a moment and think as he thought. To ask oneself, what am I building that will continue when I am no longer here? This simple and direct question reveals what truly matters. Because wealth without continuity is illusion, but purpose that crosses generations is immortality. Sheikh Zayed proved that the human mind can transform even the desert into abundance when it is guided by purpose, patience, and faith. He showed that time can be an ally, work can be a prayer, and faith can be a map. And above all, he showed that there is no nobler destiny than serving the collective good. In the end, thinking like Sheikh Zayed is not about seeking the gold of the earth, but discovering the gold of the mind. It is learning to see the invisible and work on it every day, until the impossible becomes inevitable. And when this awareness awakens, wealth ceases to be an objective and becomes a consequence. Because a trillionaire mind does not seek only to live well, it seeks to leave the world better than it found it.